Can the US Navy continue to rule the Pacific despite China's Navy becoming a more formidable opponent? Experts generally agree that the two most potent naval forces in the world are the US Navy and the Chinese Navy. A future war between these two navies would be a severe conflict with far-reaching consequences. To have a better grasp of the dynamics at work and the potential results, let us examine the factors that contribute to the relative strengths of both navies. The US Navy is superior to China's Navy in a number of ways. Currently, the United States Navy possesses a greater number of ships than the Navy of China. This contains a much greater quantity of aircraft carriers, destroyers, submarines, and other kinds of vessels. Possessing a larger fleet allows you more force projection and versatility in many types of fights. The United States Navy has a long history of operating in the Pacific, and during those missions it has accumulated a substantial quantity of combat experience. Its officers and sailors have undergone extensive training, participated in a wide range of military exercises, and conducted real-world missions. This training improves their ability to develop and implement naval strategies. Technological superior. The US Navy has an edge over the Chinese Navy because it has access to more state-of-the-art equipment than its Chinese counterpart. Extremely sophisticated weaponry, planes, sensor capabilities, and communication tools are some of these technologies. The United States Navy benefits technologically from the long history of innovation and investment in cutting-edge defense technologies by the country's military-industrial complex. Even though the US Navy is now stronger, China's Navy is quickly upgrading and enhancing its capabilities. China has made large investments in the growth of its naval forces in an attempt to overtake the US Navy. It is true that China has been making impressive progress in growing the number and strength of its naval forces. To improve its maritime capabilities, the Chinese government has placed a high priority on building technologically sophisticated ships. Among other naval assets, this expansion involves the creation of aircraft carriers, destroyers, and submarines. The advancement of China's aircraft carrier construction is a noteworthy facet of its naval expansion. China has dedicated a great deal of time and money to creating its own aircraft carrier technology. A number of aircraft carriers, including the Type 1 Liaoning and the Type 2 Shandong, have been launched and put into service with success. Due to their ability to transport and pilot fixed-wing aircraft, which facilitates long-range strikes, maritime surveillance, and air defense capabilities, these aircraft carriers give China greater force projection capabilities. Furthermore, China has concentrated on building cutting-edge warships and submarines. The Type 52 and Type 55 guided missile destroyers that have been constructed by them are equipped with sophisticated radar systems, anti-ship and anti-aircraft missile systems, and enhanced stealth qualities. Significant advancements in the design and construction of conventional and nuclear-powered submarines have also been accomplished by China. They have built submarines with cutting-edge technology and undersea combat capabilities, like the Type 93 and Type 95. China's capacity to conduct surveillance, project power, and possibly pose a danger to rival naval forces in the area is all improved by these submarines. China's main goals in expanding its fleet are to bolster its ability to project force and solidify its position of power in the Indo-Pacific area. China seeks to maintain its maritime interests, preserve its sea lines of communication, and possibly thwart or offset the influence of other major naval powers in the region, such as the United States, by building up its naval fleet and investing heavily in technology. China aspires to demonstrate its strategic objectives in defending its territorial claims and pursuing greater regional influence by strengthening its naval capabilities. Technological progress. At the moment, China is investing a large amount of money on the study and creation of cutting-edge military technologies. Research into unmanned aerial vehicles, artificial intelligence, hypersonic weapons, and other cutting-edge technology that could provide China an unfair advantage in conflicts to come is part of this. The United States Navy's technical dominance may be put to the test by these recent advances. When speculating on the outcomes of a conflict between the US Navy and the Chinese Navy, many factors come into play, Particularly in the case of the US Navy and the Chinese Navy, the location of a conflict has a significant influence on the dynamics of the situation. The South China Sea and the Western Pacific are the two separate areas that are involved in the issue. The United States Navy has certain advantages in the Western Pacific. Geographically speaking, the United States has a strategic advantage because they are closer to developed infrastructure. This proximity facilitates faster reaction times and more operational flexibility. Furthermore, with military bases and naval infrastructure already created, the United States has already developed a major military presence in the Western Pacific. The US Navy can function successfully and efficiently thanks to the current infrastructure, which makes use of the available resources and support networks. In the South China Sea, on the other hand, the Chinese Navy has home field advantage. China has made significant investments in building strong naval and aviation capabilities due to its near proximity to the region. They have set up military bases and airfields, deployed military equipment, and built artificial islands. China has a considerable amount of territory in the region, thus it is familiar with its terrain, climate, and possible difficulties. They can use this information, together with their formidable air and naval forces, to project power in the South China Sea and possibly obstruct the activities of other fleets, such as the US Navy. Of other weapon systems in addition to naval forces can have a big impact on how a conflict turns out in the end. Well, both China and the United States have a variety of weapons and capabilities that can change the course of events, such as airplanes, land-based missiles, and other armaments. China's ballistic missiles are one instance. While theoretically China could use these missiles to strike us military installations in the Pacific. This kind of attack might potentially weaken the US Navy's capabilities and limit its capacity to exert influence in the area. China has the potential to interfere with US infrastructure, command and control systems, and logistical assistance by attacking military locations. This would probably reduce the US Navy's operational efficacy and possibly make it more difficult for it to resolve the conflict. The advent of land-based missiles to the war, in addition to existing weapon systems like aircraft and anti-ship missiles, gives it new dimensions. These resources can be used to project power throughout the contested region, engage naval forces, and interfere with supply routes. For instance, the employment of air power can offer air defense coverage, aerial surveillance, and striking capabilities, all of which can affect the region's overall power balance. It is crucial to remember that the use of more weaponry by either side will probably have repercussions and would intensify the conflict. The development of such capabilities might spark a wider conflict and affect China's and the United States' strategic planning. Therefore, when examining the probable outcomes of the conflict, it is imperative to take into account the existence and likely deployment of land-based missiles, planes, and other weaponry. Political will. Aside from their distinct objectives, the political will of both nations are critical considerations. If the conflict rages on for a long time, both nations stand to lose a great deal politically, socially, and economically. If one of the parties lacks the desire or will to fight for a lengthy length of time, it is important to understand that predicting the precise outcomes of a dispute of this kind is very speculative and relies on numerous factors that are not entirely accounted for. The size of its fleet, its breadth of expertise, and its advanced technological capabilities, on the other hand, provide the United States Navy a significant advantage over its rivals. Therefore, in the case of a battle in the Pacific, it is very likely that the United States Navy would have the upper hand overall against the Chinese Navy. But in order to develop a more precise understanding of the likely outcomes of a fight of this kind, continual observation and evaluation of naval capabilities is necessary because of the ever-changing nature of global politics, military strategies, and technological advancements.